And so much has happened. I was actually re-listening to that conversation. You made some prescient calls, which is just incredible, from how much the Fed would cut rates to the Japanese yen carry trade. I'm just calling out some of the memorable moments from that conversation. But I do want to start where we always start, and that is more with that big picture, more of that macro view, where we are today, the framework that you are looking at the world from. And as you know, Ed, you can take all the time you need to set the table when it comes to that big picture macro view.
Yeah, sure. So, before I came on your show, we at Finance Technologies have a very rigorous early cycle indicators that predict recessions and where we are in the economy and recoveries and all sorts of good things. And we like other economists, our economic cycle early cycle indicators indicated a recession at the end of 23, beginning of 24. That never occurred. Our cycle indicator started to bounce. We thought it was going to be a false positive, but it bounced all the way up to a zero, which for us is not economic expansion. So we came from very low levels to almost expansion, but then we started rolling over again in 2024. And the reason, we asked ourselves, why were we wrong? And why have the laws of fundamental economics changed? Well, the answer is they didn't change. We saw something so unprecedented in the history of the United States, combination of fiscal dominance, deficit spending levels that were crisis level. You got to remember the great financial crisis, we had 9-10% deficit levels to GDP. We were doing 8% in 23 and 24. And so we've kind of reverse engineered what happened, and it was unprecedented government spending, hiring, and the facilitation of 10 to 15 million illegals into the country. And that's been the economic variable and the elephant in the room. That's why a lot of economists got things wrong. It didn't grow the economy, it just kind of stabilized it. And there's been economic confusion. PMI and capacity utilizations indicate economic weakness. There's a disparity in the household survey versus the establishment survey. And so what we figured out was this phenomenon really juiced the economy, and everything Trump's going to do is going to reverse that out. It was unsustainable to begin with because you can't have $2 trillion deficits. You can't import 10 to 15 million people in a very short order of time without a regime change, which we got. The middle class was already experiencing what I would call a recession. So in 1980, Ronald Reagan got elected because real wages were minus 2%. Same thing happened for Bill Clinton in 92, and Trump had minus 2% real wage growth. So it was the economy, basically. So the only people that have been benefiting from the economy are the top 0.1%, those who own most of the financial assets in the country, and the very low end, the very poor, and the illegal immigrants who are coming in, getting accommodations and goodies from the government and the NGOs. And now we're learning there are a lot of revelations going on in the news today about how this worked. The government, to get things done that they didn't want people to see, they would dole out money to NGOs, as NGOs that would then take their cut and then facilitate this illegal immigration. So the economy was really held up and limped into the finish line in 24 by all this unprecedented spending. And everything that is going to happen is going to reverse out. The housing market is a big problem, we think. We just put out our first paid research report, U.S. Economy 2025 Dangers of a Deep Worldwide Recession. And it's for investment professionals and those who manage other people's money, family offices, high net worth individuals. So if you're one of those people and want to get a deep dive and look at the actual work that we did and all the way we get there, I encourage you to go to our website and buy it.
We're definitely going to link that. And we do have some of those folks, many of those folks. What I learned, it's funny when I learn who watches the show, and it kind of blows me away sometimes. So yeah, we do have definitely that demographic as well. And we'll link that in the show notes. Okay, so you have this research report. You're talking about deep worldwide recession. Okay, let me ask you this. So if everything was propping up the economy under the Biden administration last year, all of these different factors, and if Trump is going to reverse it, let's talk about the recession bit, But two, is it possible that he could get blamed for a recession, or is there a way to message it and say, "Hey, we have to take a lot of pain because of, these activities and, kind of policies over the last 4 years?"
Yeah, so I've been on some shows. I've been on Steve Bannon's War Room to try to get the Trump administration to understand what's going on in the messaging. Look, I think getting rid of regulations and the tax cuts, he's going to reinstitute the 2017 tax cuts. They're good first steps, but it's going to take time to work through the economy because we've got this hangover pain coming. So, recession shouldn't be feared. And a recession, the way I'm framing it is a recession is proof that Trump is restructuring the economy for the middle class. If we don't see one and government spending accelerates, it's more of the same. We're kicking the can down the road, only making the inevitable crisis much worse. So that's the framing I would suggest to the Trump administration, that there is, and this happened to Ronald Reagan. There was a recession in his first 2 years of his term. And then when we came out of it, it was a roaring economy and he got reelected. Now, Trump can't run again, but obviously the Republicans and those around the Trump world, like J.D. Vance, would like an opportunity to, inherit a booming economy into an election.
Mm-hmm. But I imagine you have to take some of that, do some of the shorter term pain now for the longer term gain, right? If you have to, yeah. Okay. Can you just maybe flesh out a bit more of your thoughts on the Trump 2.0 administration and what these policies could mean for the economy? Would love to just hear more of the thesis.
Well, so like I said, immigration is the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even need to deport the 15 million that are here already. If you see what the Trump administration is doing, they're freezing all sorts of spending right now. They're examining everything. So spending is being frozen to all sorts of NGOs, USAID's under investigation. So the spending is being examined, it's being cut off. But before Trump even took office, there were self-deportations. A lot of illegals started to just leave because they knew the writing was on the wall and they're free lunch. Not all of them are bad people. There are some people who wanted to work, and you have to, there's people that came in genuinely wanting to get a job. A lot have not, but a lot of people are self-deporting. And, this is kind of complicated, but the housing market has been stagnant. New supply of new homes is almost back to 2007-8 levels, and permits are decreasing. So that we're going to have a correction in the housing market at some point, and housing mortgage rates are too high. So there's no transactions. The real estate market is dead at the moment, mm-hmm. and what's going to clear that is price. And what's been holding up the real estate market has been massive accommodation. When you import 10 to 15 million people. That helps those who have rental properties. The government pays the illegals, and the illegals pay the rental property owners, both single family and multifamily homes. What happened in the fourth quarter, and we put out a follow-up report to our big report that the subscribers can get for $1. It's basically for our subscribers. But what we found is new tenant rents plunged in the fourth quarter. Just absolutely cratered. And that's a leading indicator for the average rental index. And so when you look at how inflation numbers are calculated, it's like 30+% of the CPI number is the housing of the country. And when you see what's going to happen, the leading indicator, new tenant rents, we're not going to be talking about inflation come the summer. And if you read our report, everyone's on the wrong side of the trade. The trade is people are bearish bonds and long equities. And we just experienced the worst bond bear market in like 80 years. The returns on bonds has been dismal. And the thought is that bond yields are going to go up. If our thesis works out, bond yields are going nowhere but straight down. And treasury, all U.S. government treasury yields are going to go straight down. And the Fed's going to chase this all the way down. And if our economic forecast is right, the Fed will be cutting and cutting and cutting and chasing.